This is Democratic Visions.
What I absolutely love about this state and what I love about Minnesota and the caucus system is this is how it works. This is grassroots campaigning right here. This is an involved electorate, and this is how we win in the 3rd District.
Here's producer Jeff Strait.
Now, one of the candidates working for the DFL endorsement to run against Erik Paulsen in Congressional District 3 is Adam Jennings. He's with us right now. But first,
we are one of 23 districts in the nation where Hillary Clinton won, but we have a sitting Republican congressperson.
During meetups with DFL and community groups, Adam Jennings listens a lot, and he shares.
Being a Democrat, it's not a theory. This isn't an intellectual exercise for me. This is how I live my life. It's time we stood up. It's time we took this district back, and I think we can. We just need to stand up.
Minnesota Congressional District 3 runs from Coon Rapids and Champlin south to Eden Prairie and Bloomington. From farm to business center, strip mall, neighborhood, and school, Adam Jennings appreciates its diverse texture.
I just assumed all of my neighbors were Republican. And I would say that about half of my neighbors came up to me and they were like, I'm a Democrat too, you know?
Adam Jennings and his family live in the western reaches of Congressional District 3. Tonka Bay is a community surrounded by Lake Minnetonka. His wife Megan is a pediatrician. They have 2 children. They love the inland sea of Minnetonka, defined as it is by Mother Nature, and the Minnesotans who care for it, who enjoy it, and who return year after year, season by season. Adam Jennings rakes his own leaves, drives a pickup truck, and is a member of the Tonka Bay City Council, which meets here.
I'm on City Council in Tonka Bay, right here in CD3. I'm the one person in this race that's been elected to any sort of office.
When Jennings was in high school, he worked 40-hour weeks to help his family out of bankruptcy and to repossess their home and car. He also put himself through college working at the Ford Assembly plant in St. Paul. The celebrated plant closed and lost nearly 2,000 jobs 6 years ago this December. The site will be redeveloped, but blue-collar openings remain in limbo.
Democrats are the party of union labor. I stand with labor because labor stands for working families. The UAW came out and gave me an endorsement a little over a month ago, and I'm proud of that.
After 9/11, Adam Jennings enlisted in the Minnesota Army National Guard and became an officer. He holds a master's degree from the Carlson School of Management and began a career in finance. Part of his story is about starting a small business that provided safe and affordable housing in the northern suburbs. It partnered with the VA to find homeless veterans permanent housing. On his campaign website, Adam writes, "With the current administration, upward mobility and economic freedom are under attack, and our priorities are not being represented in Congress." And he says he's here to change that. Welcome to Democratic Visions.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Now, you're probably talking about Erik Paulsen with this last statement. Is that true?
In part, yes, absolutely. I think we have some systemic things that we need to deal with as a nation, but certainly the fact that Erik Paulsen isn't representing this district and doing very much to help the middle class, yes. He cloaks himself in this flag of moderacy. His rhetoric does not match his voting record. Currently, he's voting about 98% of the time in support of Trump and his policies. And those policies, I don't think, represent the middle class in this nation.
So you think the voters of Congressional District 3 right here in Minnesota are ready for a change?
I do. I haven't seen this much energy in the district in a significant amount of time. I think what's really interesting, if you go around to any Senate district meeting that's occurring in the Congressional District currently, meetings that had 5, 10 people in them before, you walk into a room and there are sometimes 50 people that are there. 35 of them don't consider themselves politically active, but they're energized and they're here and they want to get something done and they want to get involved. Tell us what we need to do. We need a change.
What changes are they looking for? And I would imagine there are changes you want too.
Absolutely. I think I was one of many in this particular case that didn't think Trump was going to win last fall. Honestly, I didn't. And Hillary Clinton, while she did win this district by almost 10 full percentage points, Trump won the nation. I think people are frustrated with not only the policies that he has attempted to implement, but certainly like his caustic rhetoric that I don't think matches the ideas or values of the people in District 3.
Roy Weir was the last DFLer to win Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District, and that will have been 58 years ago this coming election. That's when Humphrey was a young senator, JFK won the presidential, and Jack Benny had a TV show. I asked Adam if he senses a change this time around.
I think there are a number of things that are happening right now. One, Trump is in office, and I think today is a new day, and there is a lot of energy that is interested in seeing that Trump is a one-term president. Certainly Erik Paulsen is voting with him about 98% of the time, and Erik Paulsen largely has, his entire career has been trying to fly under the radar. He hasn't provided very much leadership in Washington. I think he has to contend for that. There are two things that he's dealing with right now. One, there are a number of activist groups all across the district. Indivisible is one of them, whose primary goal is to hold Erik Paulsen to account. And they've done a very good job of seeing to it that there are letters to the editor in all sorts of op-eds across the entire Western Metro. In addition to that, Erik Paulsen voted for the AHCA to repeal insurance coverage for 24 million Americans in this country. And there were a number of constituents right here in the 3rd District that were paying attention to that vote.
Democrats win in the 3rd District when we stand behind core Democratic principles and values, and we embrace those. Now, 3 core Democratic principles that I think we should all agree on are...
Adam says that he will have 3 priorities in Washington: education, health care, and working families.
So, if elected, what would be your first priority?
Healthcare, absolutely number one. Healthcare. I've literally had thousands of conversations across the district, and I mean there are a lot of things that are out there, but thematically, I think the things that really keep people awake at night, that they're really worried about hitting their pocketbook and just their overall savings. When you think about like 60% of all bankruptcies in this country are due to medical expenses that people can't cover. People are scared, and we need a solution, and we have one.
Now that solution, Adam says, is the expansion of Medicare, and he says there is growing support for it.
We just need to push it and get it through. Al Franken is standing behind this now. Senator Harris, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and obviously Bernie Sanders, who really kind of was pushing this to begin with. The Medicare for All plan is basically, it phases in over 4 years. For day one, when it passes, everyone 0 to 18, covered. Everyone 55 and older, covered. Drug companies, they have to negotiate. That's day one. In year 2, it drops from 55 to 45. In year 3, 45 to 35. And year 4, it covers everyone. I almost don't want to get into and wade into improving the ACA, because in a lot of ways that's an insurance solution. It's not a healthcare solution. And I think we need to keep our eye on the prize and try to figure out how to get to the end goal.
Now, recently, the House voted for a $1.5 trillion tax cut, and that's going to affect health care, isn't it?
It's going to have a significant burden on Medicare and Medicaid in this country. And there are a number of individuals in this district that it will directly affect over time. The Republicans have made a number of questionable decisions that don't help the safety net for Americans out there that need these sorts of services. Certainly Medicare and Medicaid, but another one is CHIP. Just in the last couple of weeks, they let...
Explain what CHIP is.
So CHIP is it's health care coverage for children that don't qualify for Medicaid coverage. In these cases, the households don't make enough money to pay for healthcare services for their children, but they make too much money to be covered by Medicaid. The House just let this let it lapse. So we now have 9 million children in this country that don't have health care coverage, and that's just inexcusable.
And national security. All those panels of pundits on Sunday TV are talking about national security. What are you going to say about national security when you get to Washington?
Sure, I think that needs to be one of the highest priorities. I think our democracy fundamentally is under attack by Russia right now. We need to recognize that fact and not make it a partisan issue. If there was a country that came in and could somehow alter or persuade or change the outcome of the very democratic process which elects our leaders, we're all under attack. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, everyone. Virtually every intelligence agency within this country that has come out and identified that Russia was directly engaged and was trying to have an impact, not only on the elections in general, but they were trying to do so on behalf of Donald Trump. So we need to listen to, the 19 intelligence services out there that all say that Russia had a direct impact on the elections, and we should not make it a political football. American democracy, it's something that we have got to protect because it means everything that the forefathers and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, it impacts all of that, and we need to make sure that we're protecting our institutions.
Education, always an issue. Minnesota, we're doing pretty good, at least for white people. People of color, not so good. Nationally, not so good. Where do we need to move Washington to support public education?
Education is the bedrock of democracy, and we need to do everything that we can to make sure that we uphold public education. I'm the product of public education. My wife, she's a pediatrician. She takes care of families all across the West Metro. She's the product of public education. We want the very best for our children, so we plan on sending them to public school. Our daughter actually just recently started kindergarten. There are a number of things that we need to do. First and foremost, we need to fully fund the special education mandate that was passed in 1972. I believe the highest Congress has ever gotten has been about 18%. They originally promised 40. You do that, and all things equal, everyone's property taxes would come down. In addition to that, we need to do what we can to not only provide mental health services in schools, but expand early childhood education. Summer programs for those children, during the summer between years, they don't fall behind their peers if they're low-income students. And certainly you would address the achievement gap. There is a socioeconomic component to this. Mm-hmm. Families of need stable housing. We need to do everything that we can to ensure that free and reduced lunch is fully funded. Kids cannot be hungry. We can't expect them to learn if they don't even have enough to eat. The nice thing about the special education component, I've talked to a number of school board members all across the Congressional District. This is the one theme, the most common theme that I've heard from all of them, that if Congress could step forward and simply fund the mandate that's already been passed, almost 45 years ago, in some cases this would free up 10 to 15% of a budget for a local school district, and that's a lot of money that school districts can then use to fund other things in their district.
Congressional District 3 is a rather large area. What do you like about living here?
It's great. My wife and I talk about this all the time. Tonka Bay, specifically where we have made our home, we love it. We couldn't be happier. There are days that we joke that we feel like we live in Mayberry. Our neighbors are fantastic. The lake is within walking distance, so our kids have the opportunity to play there.
Your kids play here too?
They do. Because this is where my daughter caught her very first fish. My father, her grandfather, came out here and they had a little frozen fishing pole for the Disney movie, and she cast in the water right here and caught not a bluegill but a largemouth bass. So it was good omen.
We were having a national night out, mm-hmm. and our kids were playing in the fire truck. Our neighbor had put this together, and she had approached me and she said, You know, Adam, the woman who used to sit in your house, used to live in your house, she was a council person. You know, you should pick up the torch and carry on the tradition. And we kind of chuckled about it because oh, that's humorous. Later on in the evening, she circled back around and she said, no, seriously, you should think about it. And I thought it sounded like a great idea after I'd had a conversation with my wife, because we wanted to give back to the community. There's a rich tradition of giving back and being involved, not only in the 3rd District, but the state of Minnesota itself. When you think about the state of Minnesota that reached out to so many Vietnamese refugees during the Vietnam War and said, come, live here, it's a peaceful place. You can see the same thing with the Somali community. We have, I think, the largest Somali community in the United States living right here in Minnesota.
Twin City metro area.
Yeah. There are a number of Liberians, a number of Iraqis. There are a number of people from the Middle East and all over the world. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what America is all about. You think about the words inscribed at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. Bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And I think that says a lot about who we are as a nation. Unless you're a Native American, guess what? We're all immigrants here.
And what I absolutely love about this state, and what I love about Minnesota and the caucus system, is this is how it works. This is grassroots campaigning right here. This is an involved electorate, and this is how we win in the 3rd District. Democrats don't win in the 3rd District by pandering to Republicans.
The Republicans in Washington are looking for the bill that would reduce taxes by $1.5 trillion. I believe that's over the next decade. How's that going to affect our programs?
First of all, I would like to ask the question, reduce the taxes for who? I think that's largely a tax cut for the top 1% in this country, and it doesn't do very much at all for the middle class, and that's who we really need to be focusing on. And the other thing too is that it's not even a responsible bill, because it actually makes our national deficit go up. Now, one thing that I want to throw out is that Erik Paulsen sits on House Ways and Means. Another way to think about that is Erik Paulsen was the architect of this absolutely dreadful bill that's out there, and it doesn't allow states to deduct their state taxes, which you can currently do at the federal level. What that means is, if you live in the state of Minnesota and you itemize your taxes, there's a very high likelihood that, regardless of what party you're affiliated with, your taxes are going up. So this is yet another example of how Erik Paulsen is not representing the people of not only this state, but certainly the 3rd District as well. Now, this doesn't do or speak to all of the individuals that are currently on Medicare and Medicaid, Social Security, other programs that are out there, education. This is where the Republicans are going to try and find additional money. In addition to the debt going up, these are additional cuts that they're making in order to fund this tax cut, and that simply doesn't make any sense. We have got to stop thinking about these things as spending, less as an expense, and more of an investment in our community. There are several examples that I can think of. Certainly roads and bridges, and education. There is absolutely no excuse that we should be cutting educational spending at all. If anything, we need to be allocating more funds to education.
What does the Jennings family do when they have a Saturday and Sunday off? What, do you go to Dairy Queen or?
Yeah, well, the kids are really big into Culvers as they get older.
Culvers, okay.
Yeah, so our daughter's 5 years old. Our son's 2.5. We try to take advantage of the amenities in our district as much as we can. So,
what do you mean by amenity? Come on.
Sure.
Give me some examples.
Sure. So, we have a park near our house. We have the Arboretum, which is very close by, certainly in the fall when it's time to go pick apples. some of which were developed right here in the state of Minnesota by the University of Minnesota.
Honeycrisp and Harrelson are my two favorites.
Yeah, exactly. And we live on Gideon's Bay, so there was even an apple that was developed in Tonka Bay. It was named after the wife of the man who owned the orchard, because there used to be a number of apple orchards there.
Well, you're going to be working Congressional District 3 precinct caucuses in, when is it?
February 6th, and I highly encourage as many people who want to be involved in this process to come out. This is the heart and soul of politics in Minnesota.
Well, I'm going to be at mine. I may not see you there because I know you're going to be all over the place.
Absolutely.
But thanks for coming on Democratic Visions. Best of luck.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers from Eden Prairie, Hopkins, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington. Watch us on select community access cable TV channels and on our YouTube channel. This is Carol Sundstrom.